Yes, sir. Director Davis. Director Jones.
Here.
Director Parker.
Here.
We do have four.
Thank you. The next item is the adoption of the minutes of the meeting of June 15th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And I second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that the minutes of the June 15th, 2022 meeting. Next on the order is Chief Financial Officer. Okay. Mr. Dixon.
Good morning. I'll be brief with this update and put if there are any questions, just asking. We have here. We started putting graphs in the financial statements to help you better understand a lot of people, especially non-financial people. I know you all are financial people, but inside board is so they tend to understand in pictures and things of that nature. So we thought these graphs would better portray some of the things that we're trying to explain. So we have a graph in here, and I won't go over it. I'll just let you know what it is. It's a graph of revenues by source on page 1. That on there. Thank you. On page 2, and I see 2 page numbers on here, but I assume it's your page 2. This is where we're comparing revenues for 9 months to the budget for 9 months, as well as to the annual budget. And you can see there where there's any material variances from the budget. The only variance from the budget that is material, and we've said this before, is in the area of financial systems and capital projects, where the capital projects were put on hold when Director Shaw came in to get a good handle on where we were fiscally and financially, and make sure that these projects were in accordance with the strategic plan. The only other items, most other items are on, is within the budget, on task, I would say. If you look down at the bottom of the page on the other revenues, we explain there that we are above, we exceeding the budget for revenues there, primarily because we got some funds from RPC for paratransit. We also got funding from the state of Alabama for the project that you see outside here, where we renovated the CSX platform. Turning to the next page just shows our budgeted expense by object. And here you just see the labor and benefits, the government place where we spend most of our money. And you see that's about $21 million. And then on page 4, we actually compare the expenses today through 9 months with the budget for the 9-month period, as well as compared to the annual budget. And you can see that we are under budget for every category, especially in labor and benefits, where we still haven't been able to hire as many of the operators that we would want to hire to run the system. That is causing us to lag behind the budget. But in some ways, that may be a good thing, except when we can't do some of the routes. The only other schedule I'll go over here, and I think this is probably one of the most important schedules in this package, is the schedule of working capital. It's on page 5. And working capital, the definition of that is the difference between current assets and current liabilities. If you look at the chart at the bottom of the page, you will see that starting after 2016, our working capital had been in a pretty steep decline up until fiscal year 2019. It started to stabilize at that point, and now it has increased for the last 2 years. fiscal year 21, you see that it increased up to $8.8 million. And in 22 so far, up to $14 million. So this is pretty significant. If you look at the top line there, you see cash and cash equivalents, and you can see a lot of times we focus on how much money do we have in the bank. But it's a little bit more to it than that. It's not only how much money you have in the bank, but how many receivables you got that's gonna come and be converted into cash in a relatively short period of time. And if you look at the unaudited 21 year, unaudited 22 year, you see that cash was $10.7 million as of September 21. It had dropped to 8.7 by June of 22, but if you look at the receivables below that, you see that we have accounts receivable of $2 million at the end of September 21, and about the same amount as of June 22. In June 22, that receivable is really stemming from monies that Jefferson County, they've already paid us now, but as of June, they owed us money for the Jefferson County tax that we get $2 million each year from that. That is always paid in August of each year. You'll also see grants receivable of $1.8 million as of September 21, and almost 5.3 in June of 22, but that 5.3 is now withdrawn by our grants department, so that money is down the bank. Of course, we spent some of that money, but as of now, our cash balance is up around $10 million or so. But just wanted to explain that to you because there's sometimes timing between cash in the bank and the receivable balance. So that will conclude my report. I think those are the highlights as this June, and field any questions that you may have this time.
Where you change in working capital? Where you got your year-to-year change in working capital?
Right, okay.
You got 4.9 million highlighted in your 20.
Yeah, the 4.9 million, that's the total over the, I guess, what is that, 5 or 6 year period of time. You can see that we started, if you look at working capital, we started in September 2016 with $19.3 million. It decreased down to $13 million in 1 year. That decrease was $6.3 million. It increased again $2.6 million down to 10.3. And that's the decline you see. It decreased again in 2019 by $4.4 million. Right there, that's a $12 million decrease over those 3 periods of time. It almost stabilized, but it decreased again by $1.2 million in 20. But it has now increased $4.2 million as of 21 and $5.5 million as of June of 22. When you add all those numbers across, the total decrease over this 5.5 year period of time is 4.9. The key there is at one time you were down by about $12 million or so, and now you're only down by $4.95 million. So we are trending in the right direction. We're not quite up to $19 million yet. We're at $14 million, but that trend is positive. And to be honest, it's brought about by making sure that we are charging the municipalities in alignment with what the transit is costing us. At one time, we were providing service well above what we were being paid for by one of our significant customers. And of course, the CARES Act fund has also helped bridge that gap too. So CARES Act has helped a lot of organizations, not only us, but other organizations, governmental organizations, and nonprofits. So we can attribute some of that to the CARES Act fund too. But primarily, we're trying to better manage what we're doing here, making sure that what we charge our citizens is in alignment with the cost that's provided. It's costing us to provide this service. Any other
Question for you, and this could have been answered on a previous
but did we ever determine the expenses related to the CSX platform? I know we received a grant to beautify and fix it, but did we ever determine long-term who that expense was gonna be? Possibility of it gonna be CTA or would it be, it's gonna be CTA, are we thinking forward to make sure we, for budget purposes, putting that expense? If it's gonna fall on us, do we know how much that expense is going to be annually? As well as always working on within the budget going forward, because it'll be a shame, it's really beautiful out there, and it looks a lot better than in the previous years, but it'll be a shame that we did all this in anticipation of work, and it's beautified, but then next thing you know, we can't maintain it, and eventually in year 2 or 3, it looks the same as year 4, right? So, do we know the answer to that question? Responsibility lies on the expense.
We were given a grant to upgrade and renovate, not to keep it operational. And so I think what we need to do is go back and have a conversation, maybe, and if you'd like to add to that.
Yeah. So of course, our CFO is already including some of the operating maintenance expenses in our upcoming budget. But in addition to that, Amtrak has received a grant from, the federal government for enhancements along this, line as well, or this, platform outside. And so they have met with our procurement department and given us just a brief overview of what they plan to do, but as we get more details, we will share.
And we want to make sure that they share that expense to keep it operational. So the answer to your question too is that our operational expense is gonna be nominal. Because as you can see, there were trees out there at one point. Those trees didn't make it. So we had to give them a little short life and decided to take them down until we can find something that we can, that can withstand the weather with little to no maintenance. And so we are looking at that, but it will be nominal, and we'll develop that in the FY23 budget and let you know what that will be.
Thank you. Any other questions? So thank you. Next item is the report. Mr. Amos.
Thank you. Good morning, each of you. All of you should have a copy of my detailed report already in your packages, but there's a couple of things I want to bring to your attention as far as highlights. Starting with the customer care department, fixed route department now so a total of 17,785 calls for the month. Merit transit department does a total of 10,007 calls. The human resources department has been very busy within itself, and highlights for that department includes working on performance evaluations and employee self-assessments, utilizing the NeoGov system and Gallup, and both are automated processes. The next thing would be the EEO report that we spoke about last month. That report hasn't been submitted. LTA has it, we're waiting on concurrence right now. Next, I don't know if you have it, but the HR department is going to start developing what we're going to call a personnel action report. Within that action report, it's going to highlight for the month new hires, promotions, terminations, and resignations. And for the month of this month, just so you know, there was a total of 9 new hires, 2 promotions, and 6 terminations and resignations for the month. But again, I don't know if you have, but it is a report we'll be giving once a month.
You may want to add that.
One more time. Okay, sounds good. We will definitely. I'm nowhere near it yet. The next thing is one thing that's real big right now is professional and career development. We've been very busy working on that right now. And to be honest with you, the HR department has developed a professional and career development program. Classes will be a combination of a prior series, in-person training during the bi-weekly leadership meetings, and of course online. As of right now, during the month of August, members of the executive team actually completed part 2 of the series entitled Managing Challenging Employees. If you're interested as far as what we're actually talking about, I have a copy of the presentation of the report with you right here. Next, to go along with that, just want to note that also coming up is going to be a Microsoft Certified Teams training for the employees. That's right now, there's about 19 or 20 that's going to participate in. And that'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks. We think that'll be beneficial to the employees to get more familiarized with the teams concept, consider where we're going with this pandemic and everything else. Next, finally, total 15 operators have received the first installment of this innovative. The breakout of that was 9 fixed route and 6 paratransit. And the next steps of that will include a graduation ceremony being planned to recognize these employees. And that concludes my report.
Just one question for you. If I'm not mistaken, we had some conversation, or there was a conversation mentioned about, I might be wrong, I may be confused, but concerning that employee engagement survey, I think that there's some discussion about that. Are we still planning on doing an employee engagement survey? If so, can someone update us on that? Because I do think that's very important, because the employee engagement survey, it really helps us to understand, helps the organization understand where we stand from a cultural standpoint within the company.
Sure.
And so if we can get an update on that, where we stand on the process, do we plan on implementing it, when, what the process is gonna look like, and so forth and so on.
We can do that now to defer to HR Director.
Okay, great.
Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Yeah, we are still continuing to work with the Gallup employee survey that we're looking at. There are 4 parts to that. The initial launch, we're continuing to review the initial questions. That's what we wanted to do. And I think we asked for something that gave us a little more than what we wanted. We have, I think, 10 general questions to start with, but we asked were there any additionals that we could add to or take from. And she sent us a list of 300 to go through. So once we decide exactly which questions we want, we'll get the initial survey. The employees will be notified to go online, complete that survey. It's fully anonymous. We'll get a report back on each percentage, such as, do you enjoy the job that you do at BJCTA? That type of stuff. You'll get that information, and then 3 months from there, we'll have another follow-up that we can drill down more by going back to that questionnaire from the first, where it said 60% of people love their employee benefits. We can drill down by asking, what in particular benefit do you benefit most from? Which would you like to see? It's that type of stuff. So we'll be able to build on that as we go. But we'll get 4 of those, but we wanted to make sure that we had every one of the questions initially set up the way we want the response to be. But it's ready to launch. I mean, it's whenever we're ready to review those questions and send it out, we're good to go.
Okay.
Let me add to, Director, that this is, the way we're doing this is pretty neat, because we have this NeoGov system that works with this survey. And the NeoGov system is our performance evaluation, so, which we really had not been doing in the past. And so we're automating a merit-based performance evaluation through NeoGov, and this Gallup survey works those objectives, work with the objectives of the NeoGov. And so when he talked about pulling these questions, we're not just pulling them out of the sky, we're actually coordinating the objectives, the strategic plan objectives with those in the survey, so that they all correlate and there's synergy between the 3 of them. And so this automation process is really big for us. It's gonna be really nice the way we roll this. So we're gonna roll out the performance and give everyone a benchmark on the kinds of things they can improve on, the kinds of things that they're doing well with their career development process, as well as get their feedback from these objectives from the Gallup survey. And as soon as we roll this out, we would love to be able to demonstrate it and share it with you.
Well, I'm excited to hear that we're still moving down that line. Because, you know, these surveys, these employee engagement surveys are truly beneficial. You know, if I can make one recommendation, or I'm sure you all are probably thinking about this, I think it's very important on how we communicate to the staff, because we want a high percentage of participation with these surveys in order for it to be effective, and also in order to justify the cost associated with it, right? But you want a high percentage of participation, and within that, but in order to get a high percentage of participation, I think it's important that we communicate that these surveys are confidential, because you want people to respond to it and respond to it truthfully, and they have to trust that it's confidential, so they can be willing to respond. And then also the success of it, also we have to make sure that we are don't be surprised if you see a comment within the survey that someone says, I'm gonna state my truth, but I highly doubt you do anything about it. So just don't be surprised, which you can probably go in with this. Gotcha.
It's external too. Aren't we, is the Gallup just internal or external as well?
It is internal.
Internal, yeah.
Thank you.
Good feedback.
Just one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
On the grant, we have 5% in workforce development. Is there a plan for that, or is that coming?
She's gonna do that in her next, in her report.
All right.
This is Chief Monitoring and Evaluation Officer.
Good morning. So, I'm going to go over just a few items in my report. In the area of internal auditing, we are gearing up for triennial. We know that we had our last triennial on-site review in August of 2019, and due to the pandemic, it has been delayed. So we are anticipating having an on-site review as early as November of 2023 and as late as March of 24. But in preparation for that, we are doing mock reviews with all the departments, pulling down the FTA Comprehensive Review Guide. A review guide is issued for each year. And so there are new standards that come out based on new activities from the government. And right now we have the infrastructure law, so it has a different level of compliance standards than some of our previous grants. So we are working with each department to make sure that we are in compliance. And we all know that we had a really good triennial, the best for the agency in 2019, and we want to continue that. In the area of compliance, Keisha has been doing an excellent job, and she has a disadvantaged business enterprise engagement session that will be held here in this room on September 13th from 2:30 to 4 o'clock. More information about the session will be made public, and we will have Tiffany coordinated with the board on the itinerary and the speakers, and hopefully you all can join us. In the area of grants, as Glenn stated, we have pulled down just over $5 million in the month of July. We have, we anticipate about $1.9 million in disbursements this week. And then we have, a few more to disperse before September 30th in conjunction with the end of FTA's fiscal year, as well as BJCTA's fiscal year. In terms of awards that the agency has won, we talked about the $780,000 discretionary planning grant that we have met with the University of Alabama Tuscaloosa on a scoping meeting to see how we're going to implement that grant. Also, we just recently won a $13.6 million maintenance facility grant. And in that grant, to Chair Smith's question, there are a lot of scope items that we included. So our ask to the government was $100 million, and we were awarded 13.6. So that means that we can't eliminate anything, but we have to seriously modify some of the scopes. The workforce development is a 5% requirement, but it's 5% of the total that we were awarded, not what we asked for. And so we are working with the CEO and the HR team to see what that workforce development will look like, as well as the operations staff. Also included in that grant are 3 compulsion types. So because we received limited funding, we have to see how we can best implement those compulsion types. So we have compressed natural gas, and we have to have a compressed natural gas station. So for each compulsion type, there has to be infrastructure. And then we have hydrogen fuel cell station, and then also with the third type is electric buses. The good thing there though, because we do have limited funding, is that we already have a depot charger for electric buses. So if we have to, we'll use what we have there and not necessarily have to buy a new station. But another good thing, even though the funding is limited, we do have an opportunity, thanks to the infrastructure, bipartisan infrastructure law, to apply for a RAISE grant. So RAISE is a, capital investment grant that replaced Tiger. And so, everyone knows that the BRT, or if you don't know, the BRT was funded by Tiger, which is a capital investment grant. So, there are people on this team that have experience in working in those type of grants, so we feel comfortable with applying and succeeding there. And also, I just want to give an overview of what RAISE is all about, what it stands for. So RAISE, R-A-I-S-E, is Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. So Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. So we will be applying for that grant around the end of this year, putting our plans together, but the announcement comes out in January. And that's some inside information that we were able to receive thanks to Director Shaw and the board approving our federal contract to get more support on the federal level with government relations. Also, we have applied for a $2 million $2 million grant on TOD. I have a lot of notes here, I'm sorry. A $2 million TOD grant, and we submitted that on July 25th. We had a really good conversation with the federal government on Monday about that particular award. It looks really good, our application looked really good, they just had some clarifying questions. And the awards will be announced prior to December 20th. So we'll know around that time or before that time if we won, and again, we do feel good about that. Are there any questions about anything that I reported or anything listed in the report?
I have one, with the city already made that apply for the Tiger grant for BRT. So under this new program, will we be competing with the city program for this type of program?
We would like to be the lead applicant and the designated recipient of funding, transit funding in this area. We would like to be the lead applicant, and hopefully we can be, but we are having conversations with the city on some other grant opportunities that we will be applying for later this year that I failed to mention, but we are applying for a Reconnecting Community Grant. We're working with the city on that. That's due on October 13th. And then we're also looking at another grant opportunity surrounding mobility. And we'll be working with some of our mobility partners.
And I think for the Tiger grant, now that we are working toward that experience in-house, that you will see BJCTA take the lead. And that was actually why Birmingham hired me in, because of the Tiger grant.
Any other questions?
I got one question for you or someone. I saw this when you all sent, first let me just say thank you all so much for getting us the reports and everything in advance. It's very helpful, so it gives us a chance to kind of read through them. One thing that stuck out to me on the compliance standpoint, on the DBE side, the 8.2%, as our goal, how is that ranked with industry standards when it comes to DBE industry standards? Is it average? Is it below? Is it high? You know, why are we skipping if it's below the industry standard? Why are we setting it low? And do we have a long-term goal to get to the percentage when it comes to DBE?
Okay, good question. So in terms of industry standard, there's not a national DBE requirement right now. We're strongly encouraged to have a DBE program and also make sure that all of our contracts have DBE language in them. But the way that that percentage is formulated and the reason why the BJCTA's goal dropped from 10.5% to 8.2% is based on the type of services that we have and that we will be contracting for, and the availability of agencies to perform those services. and that is how the percentage is formulated. So we had a 10.5% goal, but based on the type of services that we're procuring, that goal is no longer feasible or no longer relates to our plans. So 8.2% is a more realistic goal and a more achievable goal.
So could we, I understand that, but,
Mhm.
so could we, as an agency, make a determination that we can't hit a certain goal based on, when you got tier 1 and tier 2, right,
Mhm.
supply person, right? So if we can't, with the urban supplier, if we can't hit that number on our tier 1, could we hit it on our tier 2 from the standpoint of, if we put contract out there with, that can achieve, PE on, could we make it a requirement? We probably already do this, I think we do, but could we make it a requirement, and we do it, and it already has a requirement, could we stand firm on that requirement where if we, we would like for this particular contract to have 20% or 10% PE within your scope or what have you? I think it's in there, maybe, but I don't think we stand firm on that one. But that's a way for us to achieve our goal when it comes to DPE. We can't get it on tier 1 standpoint, we get it on tier 2. And sometimes you just have to stand firm and hold people accountable, so.
I agree, and hopefully we believe that our engagement sessions will help us with that. The upcoming one, I don't have all the itinerary in front of me, but it is surrounding crimes. So the crime agencies, encouraging them to work with the DPEs and how important it is from a federal standpoint. So when we have DPE participation, we may have an overall number of 11%. But what counts with FTA is the percentage that are associated with federal grants.
Sure, I get it.
So that's what we're trying to work to.
Gotcha. So sometimes we can, I don't think it's nothing wrong with going to go up and down.
I agree.
We our own expectations on that, so. And I had a question I forgot to ask, human resources. I think, I put a star by it, do exit interviews. Is that a part of our process as well? I forgot to ask this question.
Yes, sir. We do exit interviews, we sure do.
Cool, perfect, thank you.
Is there a particular area you're?
No, I just,
Okay.
none whatsoever, I just want to make sure, we were talking about policies and procedures, so I just want to make sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Next, Chief Information Officer.
We no longer have that position enrolled, and so I think I stated in the last meeting that I like the chief role deleted from the agenda, and we can just have Dorinda, who is acting as the information officer to, IT now reports to her. And so we can just put on that placement information technology. But I will give her report in her absence. She is away. She and Stan, Billy, and Gerald, and Trey at Floburg. They're doing the final testing for the BRT TBMs because the TBMs are to be installed in the next 2 weeks or the next couple of weeks before we launch the BRT. And so they had to go to the manufacturer to ensure that they sign off on all 32 TBMs that are working and in compliance with the program. And so she's away doing that. So we did do we performed an IT assessment that I'd like to share in a closed board meeting. I think that's going to be important enough for us to have a closed board, and the next time we have the board meeting, to have that a closed session so we can discuss it. You can be debriefed on that session, on that IT assessment. So a detailed IT assessment was performed by a third party that we brought in. It's a good report, but there's some sensitive information that we need to hold off on. And so other than that, I think the BRT is scheduled to launch sometime in September. And so they're continually meeting on that subject. And for right now, we just need to make sure that all those TBMs are working. She and I went to a technology conference last week that was very good to help us with our mobility technology, our fare collection process, and our new fare collection system upgrade that we need to be performed in the very near future after we get the BRT launched, and we'll have more information for you on that in the future.
And Ms. Shaw, you're next.
And I'm sorry, Markeisha just corrected me, executive, closed executive session, right? Okay, great, thank you.
You're next.
I'm next, okay, so, a couple things, we had,
Sorry. Willie, Mr. Davis, he's on mute, he's online, I'm not sure if we captured him.
Oh, okay. Great. Okay, awesome, awesome. And so I did want to let Director Davis know that we'll add that personnel report to diligent. It's not in there yet. I didn't have it, Tiffany wasn't able to add it before she left. So we'll get that updated into diligent. Okay, so for my report, I had a town hall meeting. I think it's real important that I always engage along with the C-suite and the executive leadership team, engage our personnel. And on Sunday, we had a wonderful outing over at Central Station with our administrative personnel, and we had the food trucks out, and I went over a couple things that we have accomplished over the years, some things that just experienced a 4% merit increase. 1% of that was cost of living, and so their annual was a 3% merit increase. And so everyone received that as of retroactive from June. And so we want to make sure that our employees feel as though we're always looking after their best interests and that we have them in mind as we grow this company. And we had a good turnout, actually a very good turnout. Sam and her team made sure that we had everything we needed and that the turnout was well with the flyer in advance. So thank you for that, Sam. And I had a good orientation. I think Jill has already gone over that. And so just so you know, the workforce development has not changed much. We're all competing still for the same people. The industry is still down, over 80,000 drivers. That seems to be the case for the last year. But we're continuing to compete for good personnel and for good people. Of course, we had some people who leave the company, and we wish them well if whenever there is an opportunity for them to grow their careers and their jobs. But we're continually working very hard to recruit good people, experienced people who's ready to come into the company to help us continue to grow this company. So that's going to be very important to us that we always get skilled personnel. Workforce development, as Stephanie has already talked about, but one of the things that people don't realize as we grow and industry changes into green emissions, as we move CNG, you go into the electric, into hybrid, and so we have hydrogen. So we now have to ensure that our maintenance personnel can go from CNG to now work on electric buses, which almost an engineer has to work on these electric buses. And so that is going to be important to us. We'll be working with local colleges and universities and technical groups to help us, as well as the manufacturers of these buses, to come in and train and continue to train our personnel, as well as new employees that we can identify with that skill set to help increase their skills. So we're going to be working along with a lot of technical partners to come in to help us with that workforce development. And so also, I wanted to mention we did win almost the $14 million, and I think that is a direct response to Stephanie and her team and the rest of the team's hard work, as well as that visit to Washington, D.C. And so as the CEO, I'd like to continue that from time to time. While I was looking for 90, we got 14, so I have another meeting set up to discuss the 90. And so I'm not going to give up just because we got 14, which we're thankful for, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful start and new beginning. That is not the end. I'm a hustler sometimes too, so I can go out there and get some money. And so one of the things I want to do is to ensure that not only we get the opportunities and then we're awarded those opportunities, but we also get what we deserve. And I think when I was at this conference last week, Memphis, I was standing with the CEO of Memphis, and he got $56 million, but somehow the people came by and patted me on the back for $14 million. And I was like, well, man, you got 56. He's like, yeah, well, this is not going right. You got 14. So in essence, what I'm saying is I think that this is just the beginning. And with the TOD planning coming available. And two, is a very competitive grant, right? So there was $1.6 billion available, but the request was for 7-point-something billion dollars. And so that means that we were in a very competitive group and we got that money. So that's not to go unnoticed, I think. And so I just want to thank the team and Stephanie and her leadership for ensuring that we make sure we meet those deadlines for the grants, and that, lately we actually are being awarded those grants. And then the final thing I wanted to go over was, we got a lot coming up in the next couple of months, and I'm gonna ask my Keisha to help me with this, if you would pass this out for me to the board and the C-suite. But we've discussed the kinds of things that are coming up. And so what we're going to start doing as we get prepared for the FY 2023 budget is to ensure that you all know the schedule in advance so that we can help plan your time around these upcoming events. And so we're in the process now of reviewing and evaluating and developing an FY 23 operating plan, as well as redefining, redesigning, and converting various modes of bus transportations. And I don't want to go into what that redesign and what those conversions may look like right now. We'll have more information on that for you as we go throughout this schedule. But as you can see, we're going to need your participation for a upcoming board retreat, which we think is going to be very important to some basics and fundamentals of how we're developing this year's FY 23 plan, as well as some other classes and opportunities to help grow our relationships and our partnership with the board. But we will have upcoming public engagement meetings for some of these new modes of transportations. We're going to be introducing the Riders Council to come in to have conversations with them. We're going to be talking to our municipalities. So we have a lot to do between now and November. And this is just a schedule to help you along the way as we progress in these areas. And so one of them is an overview of that budget and timeline schedule. And the other one is just a Gantt chart of what this helps to show you the duration of the time period that we're going to need to to develop this plan up and through completion. And so your participation throughout this process is going to be key, because what we do know, we don't have a lot of time during committee meetings to really go into much of the detail, and it's probably not the best place to do that anyway, is to give an overview and to ensure that the public is engaged in that overview. But in terms of some of the details and fundamental education around the decisions, we will have to go into that in a little bit more detail for you in some of the board retreat. And so we're looking at the board retreat tentative dates, I think for the 28th and the 29th of September. And if that does not work for your schedules, please let us know. And if it does, either way, let us know if it works or if it does not work. Because those 2 dates are going to be very, very, very important to the upcoming budget.
The next item is resolutions. Resolution 2022-39. This is for the approval of resolution authorizing the executive director, CEO, or delegate to enter into a contract with bus sales, like paratransit vehicles. The cost of the 10 paratransit buses will not exceed $841,730. Your motion.
So moved.
I second that. Any discussion? favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none, the resolution moves to the consent. Any items for discussion or reports? There's no old business or new business or, I hear a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Have not approved, we are adjourned.
Good morning, Board of Directors. Very quick planning update. One, we are still working on the route redesign concept, as Director Shaw had mentioned earlier. So we're working with our consultants on that and also our internal staff on how we would like to best roll those route redesign concepts out. Also, BRT connectivity, we're working on that as well. The run bids have been completed for the BRT sign-up. Those run bids and books have been provided to the union and the operations staff for review. We're already in set for September for that revenue start date. Also, we're having conversations and trying to finalize a wrap up with the microtransit vendor that we had been discussing microtransit services with. So that information is with our chief financial officer. So he's looking at all the financial aspects of that. Right now, as Director Shaw said, and others have stated about workforce shortages, you know, the industry it is, it's just like getting professional planners. It's almost impossible to attract people to the industry right now, you know. We have to figure out some creative solutions and creative ways to bring in people who really want to work in this very diverse background. As I tell people, transit is a beast of its own. You know, if you are not willing to be running, and as the famous word we always say, pivoting a lot, then this is not the industry for you. And a lot of us have come a long way, and we're working very diligently to roll out the projects and the things that we need to do for the agency. And we just ask for the Board of Directors, you know, just to be a little lenient with us on some of the things that we're doing, but we are doing the best that we can with the limited help that we have here. With that, I know that later, some things may come before the board for like, you know, maybe professional services that we may need to help a lot of departments be able to succeed. Temporary help is, you know, is always good. Also, I think that in most places, temporary helpers are not really good when it comes to planners. You can find temporary helpers in accounting and all that, but it's hard to find really good planners as far as temp help. I have been talking to a lot of colleges about internships and all that, so we're working with that as well. UAB, Alabama A&M, also the University of Tuscaloosa, so I've been having conversations, just trying to get the right feel, making sure that when we bring them in, that they have things to do. So I've been working on a strategic plan for the planning division to make sure that when we bring workers in, that there's something for them to do. And in this industry, it's always something to do, believe me. But I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention, that staff here are doing the very, very best. I think that what you have around the room is, I mean, some extraordinary staff people. And they are really, we're stretching, but we're stretching to a good point. So just want to say that. Thank you.
One question.
Yes, sir.
When the BRT route starts, especially the 45 route, 45 goes from the Crossplex all the way down 3rd Avenue West to downtown, right?
Yes.
I'd like to know how many people get off the bus between the Crossplex and downtown on 3rd Avenue West going down that route. Is that possible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that route is very unique in its own way. You can create two scenarios with that one. One, you can create a 45 short route that ends at the terminus, but that 3rd Avenue extension has to continue. There are a lot of Birmingham riders past the Crossplex. As you know, BRT continues on to Long. 3rd Avenue, that 45 continues down. There is just no way. It is, but I can show you ridership data for that. There's a lot of Birmingham riders riding in that corridor from that end. But we are looking at all that.
Will you give me the numbers?
Yes, sir.
And we're actually gonna give you a detailed review of all the changes, right? And there won't be, and the key is to, BRT is not the, how we wanna say, the pill that solves everything for our transportation needs, right? It does great to add to our services, but we will have a detailed report for you with ridership numbers so that you will see why the decisions were made the way they were around some of the changes. There won't be many of them, but there will be some. And so what we'll do is have a detailed review for you with ridership numbers, and you'll see all the ridership for the various routes as it relates to the BRT. Okay, and I also want to really thank Watanji for something she just said around our staff and pivoting. We have had to pivot in so many different directions, and she has been a one-person staff for a long time now. And even bringing in people, we're finding that, you know, some people are very good at interviewing, especially in planning. You know, you can look that kind of stuff up and you can sound good. You can sound good in grants. But when the rubber meets the road and you actually come to the company, we move in so many different directions that if you don't have the experience, it shows up very quickly. And so she is one of those areas, and I just want to thank you for, you know, expounding on the staff and what we're doing and how much we have to pivot, because if you can't pivot, this is not the industry for you. That is a very, very, very good point. Thank you.
I like what you're doing with Route 7.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you lost.
All right, thank you for that. Do we have any more department reports at this time? Fine.
Good morning, Chair Smith.
Good morning. Good morning.
There we go. All right, good morning, Chair Smith, to the board, Director Shaw, and our chiefs this morning. Just want to give you a little brief update on some key dates that are coming with Birmingham Express. We are very excited for their project to be moving forward. Our television advertising is scheduled to start this Friday. We are waiting on the final cut of that television spot from Big Communications, and it will run Friday, 8/26 through the end of September. We also are looking to start our radio campaign on Monday, as well as social media. We just wanted to go ahead and start television advertising on Friday, since football will be starting this weekend, and we did not want to miss that opportunity. We are also looking at having a ribbon cutting for Birmingham Express on Thursday, September 22nd at 8:30 a.m. is when that is planning to start. And so I will work with Tiffany to make sure that gets on all of your calendars, but we would like to have you all there. And I'll just say as well, to Watanji's point, all of our teams have been working very hard to make sure that all of our projects come through on time and exceed expectations. I think Birmingham Express is going to be another one that's going to be very exciting for the city. It's going to be very great, and we're so excited about so many other places that Birmingham Express will take you, and that BJCTA will be a part of that. So thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
We have any old business? I'm gonna go into the planning committee into adjournment, if that's okay with everybody. We have the Operations Committee meeting Wednesday, August 24th, 22. There's going to be information on the meeting. You can go ahead and give a roll call.
Yes, sir. Director Coker, Director Cunningham, Director Minor. We do not have a quorum.
All right. I know Ms. Coker is on the Zoom call, and she's participating in that way. Okay. We have an operations maintenance facility update.
Billy is away to, is Billy, oh, Billy, you here? Okay, I thought you was gone. You coming up for the maintenance facility?
Save us money.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
For July, our PM inspection on time performance was 100% on fixed route, 100% on paratransit, complete. Or fixed route, 20 complete for paratransit. Okay. The fixed route roll calls for 17, to make up the mechanical roll call failures was 7, 10 of which was non-mechanical, all repaired. Paratransit was 7 total, 4 mechanical failures, 3 non-mechanical failures, all was repaired. The miles between roll calls for fixed route was 20,081. The miles between roll calls for paratransit was 17,943. 61 fixed route buses in service, 13 are out of service for minor repair. 34 paratransit in service, 5 out of service for minor repair. I'll give you a little update. Bus 328 was in a accident around 9 a.m. Monday. Car rear-ended it, pushed the rear engine door into the AC compressor, and it started a small fire. There was no damage to the bus, besides the word of damage to the vehicle hit the rear engine door. So just in case anybody heard about it. The 96 days without any accidents, as of 7/31/2022, we have 2 employees that's recognized for being here. Chris Lee, 11 years, and William Mendel, 9 years. Do you have any questions?
The 17 incidents that you mentioned, how many of those may have been caught through the preventive maintenance process? Is that a reasonable question?
Really, they ain't none caught like that. When you're out there day-to-day operation, if say an engine blows, we can't catch stuff like that on preventive maintenance.
I understand.
And belt breaks, it very seldom. You look at it, we try to train them every 24,000, but parts fail day to day.
Yeah.
So you really, truthfully, can't catch everything.
Trust me.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Because I've been through the same process. Just curious.
So that was a vehicle maintenance update too?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you.
Oh, I'm sorry, on the, operations and maintenance facility update, we probably will have a greater update for you later. But just know we are having some environmental issues on our current selection, the Colbrook site. The FTA is not very fond of, so.
We have operations update?
Stan is out of the office today, but there was, I think his update is part of the, paperwork, the document, but there was no major issues in operations. Other than our workforce shortage.
We have a safety update? Go ahead, you got a question?
Workforce shortage, what's being done in regards to recruiting from our military?
Are we doing anything on the military front, Gerald and Curtis?
I do know that, I apologize. I do know that when we went to the Sherman conference, there was a spokesman there that talked about military personnel, and we have a contact information for that, if they are out there and available.
Yeah, I mean, you got contact with training people
Right.
on account, and you have not trained that people. Train your own.
That's a good point.
Because
We would love to have some military drivers. Chair Smith, you also offered some, firemen. So he's working with us to identify some possibilities there too.
Good morning. Our training efforts, safety efforts are ongoing, along with security. But one thing I wanted to point out to this was, Keith, we received our annual law prevention report. And mid-year, I guess you could say, our claims were down. For the total year of last year, 66 claims, which the payout was over $300,000. But as of, I guess you could say mid-year this year, we're down to a total of 17 claims, and that's a savings over $200,000+. I thought that was really significant, and besides the team as a whole working together to get that done, I think that's reflective of our leadership and not holding back when it comes down to allowing us to enforce safety and security and keep those claims down. So I thought that was really significant for this point in time. That's all I have.
I got one question for you. I've been seeing the BRT buses going down the route, and I know that they're off duty, but I know they're trying to train on the stops. I'll just wanted you to, go a little bit into that, training on that.
It's a couple of things that's going on. Along with training, the other part is doing the simulation. This is time to get a chance to actually test, our time points and can we make them and so on and so forth. So it's a lot of that going on. Also with the priority signaling, making sure that they're working along with the buses. So we have a few turns that identify that bus and it has priority to make a turn prior to the others. So that will be ongoing. The training is still ongoing, especially as we get closer to start date.
And then better you get to where.
There's a lot of training, where you're observing start time, all that. Do you have anyone from the police department riding along just to observe the number, frequency of people getting into the bus lanes? What is it not being? Just for the.
Not necessarily directly at the time, but we have been in talks with the police department prior to and also during those times because we have the bus only lane and stopping at the platform, which is something different for the city. But we have been in talks with them when it came to Sunday that myself and Director Shaw was out. We ended up talking to police officers concerning just parking at stops. But I think it would be a good idea to once we do more simulations, just to have someone with the police force to actually see what we go through during those times.
Yeah, I don't know if you can identify some spots along the route.
Oh, yeah.
It's more frequent.
Oh, yeah.
And I've heard it, I've seen it myself.
I'm working with James Fowler with the Department of Transportation at the city, who is helping us coordinate that with the police department. And that's something that day he was talking about. I actually put on my police hat when I met myself and started moving cars and called Bruce down there. So I'm very serious about our bus stops and our BRT, but they are actually starting to tow people from those BRT lanes as well as ticket them. And so we just have to get more stringent about that. And Lieutenant Gamble is still working with us from the World Games, who was so very helpful. And so he is going to help Bruce to work and coordinate that with the police department. But I think we have to really go through James Fowler to help really get that commitment to coordinate with all the parties, and he's doing that.
Final question. I know that you've had them ride down the route and you've had some feedback. Is there any issues with the route so far that you see?
I think the biggest issue is just going to be the change as far as the culture that we have. How it's a different type of service, and getting everybody accustomed to the BRT and respecting the lanes and the stops. Worst case scenario would be 18th Street on the south side in front of the restaurant. Everybody's accustomed to just driving up, stepping out, going to the restaurants or whatever. But having those lanes clear, not parking. The BRT is, it's imperative that we have no one at that stop, because that's where we have to stop. Unlike the regular bus stop, we just pull up to a location near the bus, meet that platform to board and, our passengers, whatever. So that's the biggest issue that I would see now, and we're trying to address it now before we even go into service. And it may still be a lingering issue as far as changing the culture later on.
So also with that, Director Smith, what the training team is also doing, we provided them the actual running panels that the drivers will have. So they're testing the peak and off peak. So they're starting the simulation service just as it would be running for revenue start date. And I did ask Chris's team, like, how is it going? You know, are they, meeting the time from one standpoint? And from what I've heard from them, they are. Of course, there are some issues when you mentioned about the signifying, especially right here with them in 18, right? So those things like that got to be worked out. But I think that once all those minor tweaks happen, we may have to adjust the schedules accordingly, you know, once it starts, but we'll see all that and we'll be able to adjust it as we see fit. But from what I heard back, they're running all 8 buses. We got 15, we got the 15 at the top of the hour, and of course you got to break it down to 30 minutes, peak time. So they are running. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Let me add that even though it's 15 minutes and 30 minutes, you probably have to schedule it for a little bit earlier than that so that the schedule stays in place. I don't know what y'all doing about that. And then what I wanted to say was about the 18th and the 5th. If we could put paint on the ground that said no parking at any time, tollway zone, let them know, you know, that they would be towed and tow away a couple of cars. I think it'll stop.
You know, when I wore my other hat, we talked about that in the streets, in the tollway zones. And so one of the reasons they don't put paint on the street because that has to be kept up too. And so what they've done is what you see. And so we decided as a project not to use street paint. And so I think what we have to do, so for the first 90 days, we have our transition team who's going to be monitoring all the services, the lights and everything, including, I think what we need to do too is get Lieutenant Gamble now on this transition team to ensure that they help us with the movement of those cars if they're in the places where they're not supposed to be. But we do have a transition team now, an internal transition team once it comes over on the 22nd. Well, it's actually coming before then. The ribbon cut is on the 22nd. But I think we're planning something for the 21st for the board and invited guests to ride the system, to experience it. And so we're hoping to get key people who would need to be involved in that transition plan too, once it's internally turned over to us, to ensure that they're on that bus like the city police department. So we might want to include them too, Sam, so that we can help monitor, they can help us monitor that for the first 90 days. And if you remember the services, we did a complimentary services. We came to the board for 90 days. That doesn't mean we're going to do 90 days, because we actually was coordinating that around the World Games. And so since the BRT was not ready for the World Games, we may not be doing 90 days, but we have up to 90 days per your approval. But we're going to manage that too along the way. But we know we'll at least do 30 days, complimentary services, because we do need people to get used to that new mode of transportation.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any department reports on transit access management, compliance with facilities? If not, we're going to call this meeting to adjournment.
I'd like to make an announcement that we will not have, the special call meeting can be canceled for today. And we will move all the agenda items to the next board meeting.
Thank you all for coming out. We appreciate you.
So,